Well, as of the recording of this video, there is a winter storm, a very rare winter storm happening in Atlanta. So I want to thank both of you for coming by for doing this short video on the target. So just for the audience to know, they have just completed, Princess and Melina, Mysteries 21. That's the only thing that they've known. They haven't known anything at all, and they have not communicated among themselves, nor been in the same room during any of the times that they've done their sessions or any of the time that they've done their work. So neither of them know what the other person has done or reported in this Mysteries project, in their remote viewing sessions, and neither of them know the target. So they're about to see what the targets were. Now, the targets actually have 3 parts. So there's 3 separate parts to the Mysteries 21. So here, if you guys can just read over part 1 of Mysteries 21, so you get to see what the target was. And you've been working on this how long?
2 months?
About 2 months of solid remote viewing.
Wow.
And
A long time.
Everyone should know that every time they did a session for Mysteries Part 1, they both did around 6 sessions, paper sessions with paper and pen, before going to video. Part 2, they did 2 or 3, and Part 3 was 2 or 3. So they've done about 9 or 10, 11 sessions to do this, and they've had, over a period of 2 months, they've had no knowledge of what it was, and they were not communicating. They were never in the studio at the same time while they were doing their work.
I haven't seen you in 2 months.
Yeah.
So they've had no communication.
She's always gone.
And Aziz, who also participated in this, is in Thailand. So Aziz was not communicating with any of them at all either. Actually, he was in Thailand and Vietnam and Malaysia, but he was not here, so there was no communication. He's a traveler. He's doing things. Anyway, so here is the target for the first part, 21A.
Why did she get it first?
Oh, you get the first one next time.
What? Hold on, wait a second.
I'm trying to
Understand.
Okay, so let me explain it. The target, as it is written in, is the viewer will remote view the war in heaven, as referenced in the book of Revelations 12:7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. So you see, not just in the Judeo-Christian culture, but also in almost all other religions and cultures, there's talk about this huge war that happened before humans were around in the heavens someplace. And the question always was, how could that reference to that battle, you get it in the scans, in the Vedic texts, in ancient Hinduism, how could that so-called war in the skies be referenced in so many different cultures?
What?
So I picked the one reference of it, the war in heaven, and I said, we want to know 2 things. We want to know what was this thing, and then we want to know how did it get into human culture? Meaning, how did it get to the point that we know about it? If it happened like millions and millions and millions of years ago, how is it that humans have it in so many different cultures, this reference of a war in heaven? So the next target...
Wait, I have questions.
Okay.
I'm so lost. How?
I mean, it's like, now that I think
Now
about
that you're telling me it makes sense,
It
but it
makes
still
sense.
doesn't make sense.
it's
The
like
colors make sense.
Well,
the
it will make
feel.
sense. It will make sense even more once you get to the third thing. Because the thing is, what you got in your sessions was you unambiguously everybody got this huge war. But it wasn't a war among
People, it
nebulous
was like-
angels. It was a war among aliens. Now the real question was, how did it get into American, or actually world Judeo-Christian culture, as well as Vedic culture, Hindu culture? How did it get into so many biblical
I
cultures and
am
so many other
speechless.
religions, Buddhism and everything? How did it get into all of those different cultures? Well, this is who planted it.
You lied to me, Courtney. You said I was going to get the first one.
Oh, no, okay, no, I'm sorry, you're right. No, you get the, yeah, I'll keep
Can I
this
have
one.
this?
Yeah, you can have those, actually.
No one's going to Believe me.
Okay, now read quietly the second one. And I promise you'll get the first one next time.
So that's the monk guy.
It's the monk guy. You both picked it up perfectly.
Did you call him a monk?
So
too?
let me.
In my head, I'm just like,
What did you call the guy, the prophet guy that was hearing the voices?
I thought he was just some type of leader.
But let me. You both described them in exactly the same way. Let me read it for the audience. The viewer will remote view the original prophet who perceived. I'm sorry. The viewer will remote view the original prophet who perceived the event that is referenced by the author of the book of Revelation, where the author describes the war in heaven, as referenced in the book of Revelation 12:7, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. The target time is when the original prophet is first perceiving this event. Now, both of you and Aziz all got the same thing. There was one human Caucasian type guy. You both had him dressed the same way, everything the same. And he was surrounded by some aliens that, in your words, were channeling, and your words.
What'd you call him?
I thought they were just workers and people.
But there was this one guy. Remember, you have the one guy,
That
and
one
you said
guy,
he
yeah,
was
of course.
controlling the mind.
You
of
said that
the-
too?
Yeah.
He was controlling the mind of the guy that you called the monk guy, and you called the leader guy, but it was clearly this guy was not under his own control, and these aliens were feeding this information in. Aliens, they wanted to seed this information into human culture, and so they apparently went to various parts, got like prophets, basically abducted them.
Yeah,
and
he was
then
completely
fed
abducted.
the stuff
Yeah, he
in, and then
was.
we got it in books of Revelation and the Vedic text, so we all know about this war in heaven. Now the real question is, where did this war in heaven take place? Was it in some like distant part of the heavens or any place? So the last target lets us clearly identify where this
can't handle
war
this.
took place.
My mind is just thinking
You get it
about
first this time.
I'm blown.
Oh goodness, I'll have to clip this out. You look at that, I'm gonna have to take this. Aziz, this is Dad.
I wasn't thinking of like a Bible situation, but now that
I definitely felt I might have been on Mars because I saw the red.
I was getting a Mars feel, but I was like, I feel like I'm getting other planets. I'm getting like something
I got
different.
galaxies, like
Yeah.
the stars and the galaxies.
Yeah, I was getting like all types of like a cloudy mist environment.
Okay.
I kept saying that, and I
What
was
colors?
just like I was getting. I got the purple,
the purple and the blues, and then it turned like red.
Yeah, I'm getting that, and I'm getting like this rock, like this city
Rocky.
of like.
You saw like a city in space,
I'm
right?
I'm getting a city. I'm getting like civilization.
You got the exact same thing. This is weird.
I'm getting
I'm
like
blown.
the whole feel of like people. And
What
then,
is heaven?
And then I'm
I
getting.
got questions.
I think it's just a place that, like I said, like I feel like okay, we're not in this form anymore when we go to another place. I think we're still gonna live. We're just not gonna be in this form.
Well, we're not going to be in this form. We're always, and I feel the same way as
I feel like
there's okay, and I know this scripture. I have a Christian background, so but it's like okay. So Courtney knows what we're doing. How does he know what we're saying is true? Like the true parts that he knows versus the parts that he doesn't know. How does he know? I'm mind blown. I've never been this mind blown in my life.
yeah, like I wasn't thinking there was going to be the title or what was the mystery. You know what I'm saying? I was look, I was just thinking like okay, I was getting this. it's like the area just, it felt like here, it felt like Earth, but
What with the
but
fireballs?
I felt like, oh, you got fireballs too?
I got like so at
Like
first
destruction.
the very first part of the target, like the very first day, I was like, lava rocks. I'm like, there's lava rocks and there's rocks falling. Raining. It was raining fire rocks. Is what I kept saying. I said it's raining fire rocks. This makes
I
no
have a
sense.
picture of that.
So like, what is you drew that? Mm-hmm. That's dope.
That's why I'm like,
So I'm like, I'm thinking not this at all. Like I'm thinking some kind of a.
Now, have you read does the audience know what it is? You should the audience should know I was just called away on a phone call, and normally during recordings I would never do that. But that was Aziz calling from Thailand, and when I get a call from Thailand, even if we're recording, we've got to deal with it, because he's dealing with recording stuff over there at the same time for the same thing. So, okay, so this is the session. This is the target. The viewer will remote view the planet Mars during the most destructive phase of the event that is referenced by the author of the book of Revelation, where the author describes the war in heaven. Book of Revelation 12:7, and there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels also, and the dragon and his angels fought. So the idea was in the first target, 21A, you clearly described the whole war, the whole scope of it. The second target, you told us how we learned about it, how aliens actually inserted it in our cultures strategically with various prophets, and it got built into our religion so that we all knew about it. The third target tells us where it was, because there was enough in your first two sessions, the first two targets, for me to figure out that sounds a lot like Mars and where it was the asteroid belt of a planet. So I had to create the target Mars to check if at that exact time when the war in heaven was at its worst, what was going on in Mars. And you guys both got the same thing. So did Aziz. The stuff that was going on in target 21A was the same stuff that was going on at 21C. It was Mars. So
the war in heaven was on Mars?
There was a planet between Jupiter and Mars called that people commonly refer to as Maldek. That was the one that blew up. And you guys, plus Aziz, have now completely described how that happened. Why there was a war. There was a war between Mars and Maldek. And there was one species on Maldek, the one that blew up.
So it's the species that's having a war, not the planets.
There was one species that dominated Maldek and another species that dominated Mars. And they were blasting the heck out of each other. And Mars, as a desperate last resort, had to eliminate that threat. And that was the end of Maldek. That's how the war stopped. But it also ended, comfortable times on Mars as well. So what we did now is we bookended the whole thing. We actually saw the war in heaven without knowing where it is. Then all the descriptions matched Mars and the asteroid belt. But I didn't know for sure. Then we found out how the idea got inserted into human cultures. And then we checked what was going on Mars at that exact time. We get the same thing. So now we've identified that the war in heaven didn't happen in some nebulous place where God resides on a throne someplace in a non-physical netherworld. It happened right above our skies. It happened right here in the solar system. What's that?
What if that's heaven?
The word, what's it?
What if that is heaven?
Well, the concept of heaven, as it was referenced in our early cultures, basically just meant above, the stars, the celestial realm.
So this is heaven.
Well, this is what they were referring to, but no one ever really understood.
honestly, I believe in zodiac and horoscope, and they say we are stars. So it's like all these stars in the sky, like it had to be like
people.
Yeah,
at one
like
point in time.
it had to, and like
I always thought that.
Yeah, I always thought that too. I mean,
but this is also important for another reason.
This is interesting.
This is too much to handle.
Yeah.
This is too much to handle. It's going to take a while to absorb. But this is interesting for another reason. Those beings were beings in our solar system, and not all of them died. So they had to go someplace.
Of course.
Now that answers who we are. We're the leftovers of there. A little bit different. And it also blends in with some of our other projects, which is, where do we in reptilians? Where do these reptilians? Well, In our Area 51 project, we actually identified a place where there's a huge number that actually exists underneath Area 51 in the Nevada desert. And so what happens is, what we are now putting together is the idea that we live in a solar system that's been racked with war, totally destroyed with war. And we're the last living planet in this place. And what we have now is a polarized society, human society, that's getting ready to launch nukes. We have Korea and United States, we've gone through the Cold War. We're basically reliving that type of life that existed millions of years ago. We're getting ready to do the same thing for ourselves. And we don't really know what the other species, the reptilians, are actually doing. But what we do know, because we know where they are now, but we don't know, what's the whole scope. So the basic thing that we're looking at now is this has to come out so that humanity has a better understanding of its past, so that we can hopefully avoid what happened in the past. But we are
kind of like when we did Atlantis.
Yeah, the Atlantis project is another example of how we're able to throw everything into the sink and just wreck everything. So this is a very crucial project, and it also tells us a lot about what it's like to be a human. We fight as humans. We fight. And this is where it's going. It's going in the direction of the destruction of the entire planet. So this really helps us to put it into perspective, because it's happened. And it didn't happen in that distant galaxy far away. It happened right above our skies. There's a whole bunch of other stuff we're going to be investigating. But anyway, this is one of the most important projects we've ever done at Farsight. And if the people look at it, the whole thing with all of your work, all done totally blind with no communication, and they see the total corroboration among 3 of the best remote viewers on the planet, if they see all 3 people reporting the exact same thing, it's unbelievably convincing, especially when all the evidence is right above their heads. You got the broken planet, you've got Mars with all the residual evidence of what happened. What people have to see, the description of the falling rocks. You both described the falling rocks, the lava rocks. I don't know if you guys are aware, but 1/2 of Mars is covered with craters. The other half is crater-free. When that planet blew up, it smashed like a shotgun, boom, into 1/2 of Mars, and the other half is crater-free. The evidence of this is so overwhelming. So anyway, and mainstream science is going to have to wrap its head around this. The evidence is right in front of their face for as long as time. I must admit that Thomas Van Flandern, a mainstream astronomer who used to work at he used to be head of his Department of Celestial Mechanics at the Naval Observatory, he was totally on board with the idea that the asteroid belt was a planet that exploded. It's just so weird.
The planet that exploded is just chilling.
Yeah,
doing things.
The pieces, the fragments are just all over the place, but it used to be a planet. And it wasn't destroyed by a natural event. It was war. And we are now developing the same weapons that were used to destroy that one. So anyway, great job, guys.
That's insane.
3 of the greatest remote viewers. Princess, you've been training nonstop for 3 years. For 3 years to be able to get to do this. Melinda, you've been training nonstop every single week, at least twice a week. Probably both of you are talking 18 to 20 hours per week for 2 years. Aziz, well, he grew up with me, so he's been around this for a long time, but he's been doing this for about 4 or 5 years. There are very few people on the planet that have ever gotten to the level that you guys are able to do this. So one of the things I want to emphasize here for everyone to know is how appreciative I am that Princess and Melina both learned this and stuck with me to the point they could do something like this. This project is going to go down in the history books, and my understanding of it will eventually go down in the history books as being a fundamental game changer in terms of how humanity looks at itself. It'll have an impact that's relatively small in the beginning, but once it gets out, once people start seeing it over the years, it's going to be huge. And it's been my honor to work with both of you. and Aziz, who's in Thailand.
Well, thank you.
I teach my son that. He goes, psh.
Any last thoughts before we turn off the cameras?
I'm just overwhelmed. I'm like, my brain is racing. I'm crying. I had to stop. That's why I put my paper up. Like, I cried.
I'm kind of wondering how the future will look like, the future of Earth. I mean, it's always a change, like almost every...
Future?
Like the future, yeah. What did I say, future? You gotta cut that off.
You said the feature. I'm like,
Future, my
feature.
bad.
I speak Melina.
Yeah,
We all have different accents, and we all get used to our different accents.
Yeah.
But one thing is clear. Accents change, but the quality of the remote viewing is spectacular. And it's so great that you two and Aziz are millennials. The young shall inherit the earth. So it really is very important that young people see that young people are discovering this stuff.
Courtney, I hope you cut that part off.
What did you do?
It's like, I don't know. I feel like certain things, this video gonna need a lot of editing.
Yeah, because I had put paper in front of my face because I
know.
started crying. I started crying. I didn't want anyone to see me cry. It was too overwhelming. It was too much to handle.
It's a big vibration.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
didn't even meditate today.
So it's like, I mean, meditation would have made us, but no, it would still be a big, like what? Like the peace would have went out of our system.
I think
real
if I
quick.
meditated, I wouldn't have been able to handle it at all.
Yeah, because my mind just like will be way off. Like, okay, I just got done meditating and I'm hearing this. It's just like
It's too much.
Yeah, the level would be.
All right, guys, this is great. Thank you so much. And
No one's going to believe this.
what's that?
How am I going to explain this to my parents?